The Shane Harris Mayhem Tournament coverage continues. Before round 3 starts, here is a look back on what happened in the previous 2 rounds. Previously on the Mayhem Tournament, several of the best have started, including Mission Force 1. However, they could not get past into round 2. Round 2 was a triple threat war in 4 different sectors. Street Football, who annihilated Code Lyoko, failed to even score a single percentage point. And Jimmy Two Shoes came close to moving on to the Final Four, but it lost in a tiebreaker decision. DNA matched to knock out OKKO in a tiebreaker, but unfortunately, Ace had to fold his cards, and Detentionaire got expelled. The Monster Buster Club couldn't do all the busting it could manage to offer, and Fangbone Sword was just not sharp enough. Oban Star Racers unfortunately had a nice long final charge that almost worked, but it wasn't enough, and Garage Band unfortunately could not sell out. Now only 4 cartoons remain, and thus the Final Four shall begin. A pleasant good evening to you all. I'm Shane Harris, and we welcome you to the Final Four. The Mayhem Tournament has seen so many crazy things happen, and now the Final Four has been set. 4 cartoons, all of whom are Canadian, will battle it out in 2 different matches, one for each side, of course, and the winners will move on to the finale Friday, May 2nd. The winner will get a fan art piece, and those shall be announced on May 9th. Those shows in question are as follows. Alright, the first is your Southwestern Division Champion, a series that ran only 1 season, a series that prior to the bracket debut has 36 views, 1 like, and an IMDb ranking of 5.2. Ladies and gentlemen, Camp Lakebottom. Next, a series that ran 1 season, 34 views, 2 likes prior to the bracket reveal, and an IMDb ranking of 6.4. Ladies and gentlemen, your Northwestern Division Champion, Packages from Planet X. Then, this series had a pilot episode in 2005, and then a full-fledged series that ran for 2 seasons, from 2006 to 2008. It has 48 views, 0 likes prior to the bracket reveal, and an IMDb ranking of 6.1. Ladies and gentlemen, your Northeastern Division Champion, Wayside. And last but not least, this one needs no introduction at all, but we have to give it one anyway. This series, in its original run, ran for almost a full decade, from 2005 to 2014. And then it had 1 more season on Netflix in 2021 to 22. This series garnered 311 views, 4 likes, thus giving it the highest ranking out of any video Shane Harris Tonight history in terms of views. And with an IMDb ranking of 6.2, it fits in with the Final Four that's battling here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, your Southwestern Division, your Southeastern Division Champion, Johnny Test. And thus, the Final Four has been set. And to sum it up in brief, here is what happened overall before we move on to kick off the third round festivities. Packages from Planet X, that show defeated Ejixis in a pretty competitive battle. And then it had to take on Obot Star Racers and Garage Band. And PPX managed to deliver what was a phenomenal victory despite the hard final charge by Oban. But when the clock struck 0, it is Dan and his boys that got it done. So that show will move on to the final. Camp Lakebottom has been a surprising story. It annihilated Little Einsteins in the first round, but then when it took on the Monster Buster Club and Fangbone, they just almost wiped the floor on both shows. So now, the Western Conference Final will be between Packages from Planet X and Camp Lakebottom. Two shows from the 2010s that can deliver big time. On the other side, Johnny Test managed to win 2 battles via tiebreaker. The first was against Mission Force 1. The like count? 4-3, Johnny. Then, the next round. Round 2 found that show taking on Jimmy Two Shoes and Street Football. And thus, that one went into the tiebreaker yet again. As per tiebreaker rules, it's like count first. But if that's a draw, you go into the amount of views. If that's a draw, you go into the IMDb ranking. Sounds fair enough. Johnny won via like count 4-1. That show is now in the Final Four. Wayside pulled off 2 huge upsets. It wiped the floor against the number 2 ranked Weekenders, which also happens to be tied for first with Oban in the IMDb ratings at 8.0. Then Wayside had to take on DNAce and Detention Air. On paper, you would think Detention Air and DNAce may have the advantage. But, in the end, Wayside managed to completely school the field. It's completely annihilated Detention Air, and it won by just 1 vote, 60-40, against DNAce. The Eastern Conference Championship is now set, featuring 2 shows born in 2005, Johnny Test vs. Wayside. And there you go. Johnny Test vs. Wayside, Packages from Planet X vs. Camp Lakebottom. The Final Four is set. I will see you next Friday for the finale. Good night.